Whoa, hey, howdy, what's happening? How's everybody doing out there? Yes, I'm at home again. I just flew in from Chicago. I got up at the equivalent of 2:45 a.m. Uh, LA time. Yeah, because it was 4:45 Chicago time. So I'm a little crusty, and I thought I was thinking of going to the studio right from the airport, and I was like, "Why must you abuse yourself? Why? Go home. You can do your live stream. You can have a little breakfast. The coffee maker's right beside you. If you want to make more, you can do that. And then you can take a nap. 'Cause that's going to happen. And then I'm actually doing a little live stream later on today with David Friedman and Steve Fryette. Yeah, it's Steve's stream. And I've never, I must confess, seen, well, I watched some of the videos that he's made on High Watts and stuff. I've seen those, but I haven't seen the show that he does where he interviews other folks like myself. So we'll see what happens. But I'm going to go do that this evening. So it's a day of live streams and napping. I just came from Sweetwater. I was at their GearFest event, which was interesting. We can talk about that if you like. Tell you what I saw, what I discovered, what I found. Mostly great hangs with people. That was awesome. But also a few little gear revelations and things like that I had while I was there with some of the stuff that I got a chance to try. It was pretty cool. And then on the way back, I actually stopped last night in Chicago because Britt Bowman was there playing with Alexander Stewart, who's a talented young Canadian singer-songwriter. And he was opening for Charlie Puth at the Ravinia venue. For those that know the Metro Chicago area, you'll know that. It's a really great venue that's really beautiful. No, I played there many years ago with Melissa Etheridge. It's the only time I've ever played there. But anyways, cool to see a show there. And Charlie Puth was an interesting show. I realized I've kind of never seen a show like that, like a full-on pop show. You know, he's very talented. He's got an amazing voice. He's written a lot of hit songs. I guess he kind of started out as a. I'm speaking of Charlie here. He wrote excuse me. Started out as a songwriter mainly. Wrote a lot of hits for other people, and then he move into being an artist himself. But talented cat, great band. It was good. It was interesting to see a show like that. It's very pop, and it's like serious melody writer is what he is. That's what I took away. Because I noticed there'd be a song where like one song was the same four chords over and over again, but he had distinct melodies, maybe 3 or 4 different sections of melodies, almost like I think of like High and Dry by Radiohead, right? It's the same 3 chords the entire song, but you've got a distinct, there's really there's kind of 3 melodies in High and Dry. It's more basic than what I'm talking about. But Charlie had like 4 chords, and basically he would write in like great hooky, super hooky melodic section over those 4 chords. Then he'd have another super hooky melodic part over those 4 chords. That's another section. And I swear there was like 3 or 4 or 5 of those in the song, distinct melodic, and each of them like equally strong. It was interesting. This is a different way to approach music. I'm such a rock guy, but I love, I come from the Beatles and stuff. And so anyways, T-Top's there with a super chat right out of the gate. Says, I can't stick around. Want to wish you a happy belated birthday. Thanks. Yeah, I had a birthday too while I was out there. That was my birthday yesterday. I appreciate that. Thank you, man. Thanks for being here. Now let's answer some questions here. While we're on it, and then we'll come back around, circle back around to some stuff I saw at Sweetwater while I was at GearFest and stuff. Do you think it's redundant to get the Eventide H90 if you only have 1 amp? Oh, I mean, it's more about, do you need the effects? You'll be running in mono if it's only 1 amp, but that's fine. It's a bit of a do-it-all device. So if you need a do-it-all device, modulation of any sort, Leslie, awesome selection of delays, reverbs. I use mine a lot for reverb. So I use the Spring, the Black Hole, the Hall kind of algorithms. Excuse me. Just ate 2 breakfast tacos and I'm, having an episode. So yeah, they're not inexpensive, but it does a lot, and it's a kind of a. I mean, if you get one, it could be the only thing you need on your board for delay and reverb and modulation and stuff. I would think. I don't think you need another for most rigs. It'd be all you need. So add a compressor and a wah and a fuzz and an overdrive and maybe a distortion or something, and you're done with that. And you'd have still a fairly compact board, even at that, with that many pedals and a tuner, and you'd have it all. So it is, one of the more expensive pedals out there for sure, but it's absolutely one of the more capable pedals out there. So I guess it's just up to your needs, What was my favorite part of GearFest? The people, it's a fun event. Anytime those types of events happen, they're fun because you see a lot of the same folks, and we've made friends over the years, folks that do this kind of stuff, the YouTube thing. So I saw Ben Eller there, and Rhett Schull, and Phil McKnight, and Robert Baker, like just so many different people, Gretchen Menn, and Daniele, that's how I'm screwing up his name. He's a amazing Italian guitar player. She's married to. He's such an incredible guitar player. So it was nice to get to know him a little bit better out there. So it's people, that's my favorite part. As far as the gear stuff goes, I'll tell you, we did I did a few things out there, none of which are out yet, but I shot this was really fun and educational. A sort of like history of the classic Marshall circuits from the JTM 45 through the Jubilee. So 60s to 80s, really. The stuff that we're really jazzed about, I think, overall. And we played, through them and turned some knobs and stuff, and had examples of, reissues, if not the originals of those amps there to kind of listen to. And it was fun. But probably the most fun part about the video was Nick Bocott it was myself and Rhett did it together. And Nick was there, and he offered so much, like so many anecdotes and stories about Jim Marshall, and just we really got to appreciate. I mean, he's got a great tattoo of Jim Marshall on his forearm. That's how much he has a real respect for the man, and how much you could just tell he really affected his life, and he had nothing but great things to say about him. And so we got that aspect of how Marshall was kind of a very top-down kind of organization. And coming from Jim, he was always really into listening to what players wanted, listening to what his customers wanted. He wanted to build things that musicians wanted and needed from the beginning. I thought that was really cool to hear from him, because he'd worked there so long beside him. He's written a book on, he was a part of a book on the history of Marshall. And so it was great having Nick involved. Really liked it. He's a great guy. He's got a real, I love his demeanor, and he's a good cat. So that was really fun. And then another video I made there was about cabinet miking, and just really comparing different microphones. Not so much about miking, because we put every mic in the exact same position, as you'll see in the video, to just kind of get a baseline. That's not a real world thing, really, because you would probably move different microphones around to get different sounds, obviously. But we chose the kind of where the cap meets the cone, maybe a little bit further into the paper spot, maybe a half an inch back from the wheel cloth. And then we mic'd with, it was a Marshall hand-wired cab, the G12H 55 hertz bass cone speakers that they used for, it was the standard cab that came with the hand-wired plexi, I think. Lost my train of thought. Anyways, we mic'd it up with a few different dynamics. The new Shure 545, which is really cool. It's basically predecessor to the 57, then the 57, 421. Any other dynamics? Those were the main dynamics. We did a few ribbons. We did the Shure 313, I think it's called, the one with the red kind of grill on it. We did 121 Royer, and a Bear M160. And then we did a couple condensers, like a 4050, which has long been one of my favorites. And we did a Soyuz mic called a 1973. So more on that when you see the video, but that mic blew me away. Both the 545 and the Soyuz were really like things I hadn't heard before, and they knocked me out. They were great. So I'll be editing that over the next week or so, get it together. Yeah. I did those. Did a little video with Shure on if you do any kind of content creation sort of stuff, on having a great mic for your cam. I felt like there's not enough out there about that. Like, capturing audio, like kind of when you're at a thing like I was at, where it's like noisy around and stuff, and you're trying to interview people, and there's lots of different ways to do it. But I sort of prefer, like, I hate lav mics. So if you can get a good shotgun or a good cam mounted mic that is very directional and will work for interviews and stuff like that, that's what I like to use. So I kind of focused on 3 of those, and as well as a amazing little mic that they make for iPhone. That is really cool with its own integrated app. So I made a little video about that. When I say made, it's none of this is edited yet, so it's going to take me a little while. Yeah, but that'll all be coming. Yeah, okay. What else we got here? What else you guys talking about? Lauren says, happy birthday. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Yeah, I had a birthday. Another trip around the sun and all that. Let's talk about amp sims and IRs. Sure, Joe. You start. What do you think? What are your favorites? Are you still using ASI audio in your monitors? I am. I brought those out. They're in my bag on tour. Yeah, so I've got those out on the road. I'm starting a tour in 2 days, so it's busy time. But I sent those out. I've also got a set of Ultimate ears that I'm doing a little review of, and kind of they wanted me to do something on their new UE Pro in-ears. So they made me a set, and I'll be talking about those. It's a traditional set of in-ears. It doesn't have the ambient feature or any of that stuff, which I love having, but they are a very, very, very good sounding set of in-ears, especially for if you do any kind of like really clinical stuff, mixing on the road, that kind of thing, or if you just like a very, very, detailed, you want the best. I mean, they're expensive. They're not inexpensive. And they have 22 drivers per side, which I was initially scared of. That's going to be a part of the video, because any in-ear I've ever tried with a ton of drivers is just usually really subby and bassy, and I don't like them. These are very different. They're very, very balanced with really, really nice, rich mids. So guitars actually sound really good in them. I like that. But I feel like, that for when I'm out, like, for example, when I'm making these videos that I'm about to do, and I've got to, bounce down all these tracks of, cabinet mic'd, tracks and stuff like that, I'm going to be doing that on those, because I'm going to be doing it on the road. I got to leave in 2 days. So you need a good set of in-ears sometimes that you can trust, and that what things sound like. So the UEs for that. The ASIs are awesome. They're great. They're a 2-driver situation, and they're not made to have a lot of bass. They're just part of the sort of sensophonics connection and the way that they feel about stuff. It's not a flat in-ear, I wouldn't say. They sound good, great. Been using them, like them a lot. I wanted a more like reference monitor kind of set of in-ears that for mixing and stuff. So, anyways, I'm taking those as well, and I'm gonna try and use them on the gig as well and see how that goes. Let's see here. What else are you guys talking about? There's a couple super chats there. I'm gonna grab those right away. What do I think about the new PRS Tele? I thought they looked pretty cool. It's when they put out a new guitar that's kind of got a bit of a I can't remember the other model that they had with the unique pickups in it. Mira, maybe. They try and do a slightly retro but slightly modern, with they're never copying things. And I think it's a Miles Kennedy signature thing, right? I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Did you try anything that you didn't think you'd like that surprised you? That's a good question. I didn't get a chance to try a ton out there, to be honest, other than the videos I made, like a ton of new gear or anything like that. I was just so impressed by that Soyuz mic that I mentioned earlier. So that was really cool. I had to pick one up. That'll be kind of the focus of my video. I got sold by my own video. Made a video, and I was the first customer from watching the video because it sounded really great. I'm like, I can't, they gave us a bit of a deal for GearFest for being there and stuff. And it was like, I can't leave without buying this. So I got one. But I didn't, I wasn't prepared to do that. I thought I'd hear it and go, oh yeah, cool. Sounds like, a slightly different flavor of stuff I've probably already got with the 4050 and stuff. But it just sounded so good that I was like, you hear one mic and it like, it's got it all, you don't feel like you have to blend it with anything else. It kind of sounded like that. I was like, oh, I'm going to want it now. Because a lot of mics like a 121 or different, the ribbons and stuff. I'm always like, yeah, great. It's great for that one thing. Sounds really warm and all that, but I'm still going to need the other one for the push and the cut and all that. And I'm always like thinking I'm going to have to blend it. And many times I do. So this just sounded, I love it when you can get the sound out of one mic. There's a lot of guitar players, and Michael Landau and Scott Henderson come to mind, that don't want anything other than what a 57 in the position they like gives them. That's all they want. They don't want any more than, at least that's what Scott says about Mike. I've never directly asked Mike about that, but that's what Scott says. He says he likes the 57 one mic, and Scott does that. He likes to have long conversations with him about his feelings about it. And yeah, it's just kind of interesting. Let's see what else we got here. What else you guys talking about? You guys talking about V30s. Have you guys heard that? We talked a little bit last week, I think, or week before, about Fanes. The F70 was the one. Michael Nielsen did a nice video about the F70 versus the, I think it was Michael. Yeah, he did a video about F70 versus V30. And out of all the Fane videos I've seen, that's the one that I really thought sounded great, that F70. I'll grab that super chat that just disappeared there. Just head down in just a second here. This fellow Marco about the asking about the ASI in-ears has asked a few times, so I figure maybe I didn't say enough about them. The ASI in-ears are the ambient ears that I've used for a couple of years now that have a mics built in, and you can blend in the mics. I do like them, and I think they're great. Do I have any tips? Not really. I usually set the limiter at 100 or 102. Just to really catch any kind of crazy stuff that would come through. And I don't run them that loud, but I like to set the limiter where I don't. What's interesting, you'll find with these are in-ears, and they've got a little bit of software built in, so you can actually got ambient mics built in, so you can hear the stage, and there's some limiting and EQ you can add, excuse me, to the signal. And I find it is interesting when a singer comes over right beside me and is like leaning in the ear, I can hear the limiter kick in and kind of collapse on the ambient mic. These are things you don't think about necessarily when you're like just playing on stage, right? Like how loud a singer coming over and hitting a high note or something in your ear is. And so if you got it set at 102 and you hear the limiter kick in, that's kind of interesting. But anyways, I digress. They're cool. I like them a lot. They're a great solution for somebody that feels like they're bummed out because they can't hear the crowd, where they want to hear more on stage, just their amp, and a little bit of just more like not having in-ears in. They're pretty impressive. I've shown them to a lot of people because my favorites that I have are actually the generic pair. So I can actually just take them and give them to somebody and go, check it out. And they put them in. And they're like, oh, wow. Yeah. Like nobody's been like, everybody's always like, okay, that's cool. Like, it is a neat thing. Yeah. Okay, what else you guys talking about? Are you going to be putting up videos from GearFest? Yes, I guess I'm far back in the chat. Yeah, so I got about 4 in the works that I'll need to finish up and do, and I'll do them while I'm out on the road. Moving on down to those super chats. You gig with any profile or digital amps? Yes, the current tour that I'm going to do next week, as I did last year, I'm going to use a Quad Cortex. So the quad's running into a stereo power amp and a couple of Sur 112s on stage, so I can get some on-stage sound, but I'm also running a second set of outputs with speaker simulation out of the quad to the PA. And I did that last year, had all my sounds dialed in. I'm like, this is great. Like, why change? This is awesome. I like the way it sounds. So I'm going to roll with it and use it on tour again. It sounded great in rehearsal. We did 2 days of quick rehearsals the other day, and it was awesome. Really good. Where 122V is an awesome sounding mic. Ben Tom, they're asking about that one. I really like it because it does have a more extended top end and more output. It's got a built-in preamp and stuff, so it's got more output than a 121. And it's got more clarity, and I like that a lot. That mic I do sort of feel like you might be able to use on its own. Yeah. Do you have any big-bodied guitars? Not really. I don't have anything like a 175 or, I've got 335 and I've got a DG 335, but that's it. I don't have anything that's technically a big body guitar. Ben Tom's brother turned 40 yesterday. Wow, he's the same birthday as me. Well, wish him a happy birthday from us. Here's a super chat from Andy. Coffee for you. Thanks, man. I wish I could show you my amp rack now that I copied your setup. I want to see. So much more usable and inspiring. Just need to finish wiring, but using a patch instead of amp Pete switcher. So you just patch like from one to the other and that kind of thing. Like take the speaker cable and move it from head to head. I used to do that, but I was in Santa Monica. That was the way that I had my setup for a long time. I didn't move to the amp Pete until I built the new room and stuff and did a different thing. So, and it always worked. It's just not nearly as fast, you know. Dustin says, Fight for Fighting seems like a good gig. Yeah, that's who I'm out on tour with next week. It is a good gig. I mean, I did it 20 years ago, and so it's very full circle to come back and do it again. It's really fun. And we're even going to do a song that we did on that tour 20 years ago that I don't think John's played maybe since then. And I suggested, I'm like, why don't we do this one? I'm not going to spoil it for any fans that won't tell you what it is. But we played it in rehearsal. I was like, I haven't played it in 20 years, but I think I remember it. And it came right back. And it was just really fun. It's like when I listen back to the old recording 20 years ago, it's like, it sounds really good. It's like, oh, I haven't progressed much in 20 years. No, it's not that. It's just like that I like my tone back then and stuff. I remember using a King Royale plugged into a 412 cabinet with V30s. And the internal speakers, which was what was in it? Maybe a greenback and an H or something. And so I would run 6 speakers off one 30-watt AC30 clone, kind of. It's probably not that. I mean, I don't know, but it sounded great. Like the recordings, I'd mic them both, so I had a little open back and some closed back, and it was a really cool sound. Not stereo or anything like that, but really cool. Jim says I only look around 42. Thanks. I appreciate it. I do. These birthdays, as you get older, you're like, oh, not another one. My goal with pedal boards, says Asman, is always try and keep it as compact as possible. I'm getting an EVH delay for delays. H90 might be the ticket for reverbs, mod, and pitchy stuff. Yeah, and the neat thing about that, the way I might do it if I was you, and you can do this easily on an H90, is you can put the EVH delay in the middle and then run stereo if you want, so you can go into the H90, come out of the first processor of the H90, go stereo into the EVH, come stereo out of the EVH into the second processor on the H90. It's kind of a neat way to do it, because then I like delay to be there in the chain. So in other words, if you got mod up front, a chorus, or some sort of flange or whatever, I like that to be in front of the delay, and then have delay and then have reverb blast, so that you can totally do that easily with the with just 2 pedals, but have sort of 3 processors going on. It's great. Brett says, I'm new to the worlds of IRs. Which ones are favorites? I would say start with Celestion. I'm a Celestion fan. I think that they do a great job. With the thing with the Celestions is they're not super hyped. They just sound like the cabinets in the studio. They sound really good. Like but really similar to what, when I go between like the Celestion IR and then my actual 57 on the cab in the other room, it's not worlds apart. It sounds like, yep, it's just in a slightly different position, however they mic'd it with their particular speaker and cab that day, and however I'm micing it. But it's like right there. I find some of the other ones, I mean, there's some other ones that are great. I used Yorks on the last tour that I did up in the UK. And I used a particular York IR of greenback for my dirty amp. Sound great. It was a certain mic blend. I don't know. They sound a little bigger and a little more, I don't want to say hyped. That's almost like, sounds like a bad word, but they do sound sort of more finished, like as though, I'm not saying there is, but they generally sound bigger and polished and like kind of a ready sound that's already ready to go. Whereas the Celestions sound like a little bit more like a raw, like this is actually what a mic cab sounds like before you do anything else to it and stuff. And so for that reason, I find generally I can drop them in a mix and treat them as I would a mic cab, really the same, and they just work. So those are my 2 faves. There's a lot of stuff out there to listen to, but I think you'd have a hard time going wrong with a selection of York IRs and a selection of Celestion IRs and picking from that. Yeah. Okay. Just gave my Silver Jubilee to my nephew. He plays Gilmore and Moore leads, but he also plays Tool and Lamb of God. What pedal? I mean, a Silver Jubilee is there's a fair amount of distortion in them with the clipping circuit, especially. It's more a matter of EQ, probably. I don't think I would go with another distortion pedal and pile it on there. It'd be more like you might want to get. I mean, Tool's a tough one because his rig is such a combination of two different amps that it's hard to achieve without doing what he does. Where he's got an old Marshall Super Bass that I think is a staple of his sound. That is kind of the Marshall mid-range punch, and then he's got generally I think a diesel or some points a dual rectifier for that thing, the modern thing. And when you blend those two sounds, you just get a really, really, really big tone, So when you say Gilmore and Moore leads, well, for David Gilmour, you need a big muff of some type, generally speaking, And Gary Moore is kind of, at least towards the end, was like an SLO guy. So something like the Soldano pedal might be a nice alternative to whatever the Marshall does internally. But I would say that, if I had to do that with one amp and I was trying to get there, I might get something like the Boss EQ 200 pedal and maybe a SD1 to boost the front end or something. And between those, kind of like, with if you watch my video on the EQ 200, you'll hear that you can take a sort of traditional Marshall tone and then tweak it to be something very different, EQ in the loop, or you can have an EQ in front of the amp and then do an EQ in the loop. You can even do like a frown EQ in front to boost the mids and kind of push the amp and boost it. And then in the effect loop of the amp, you could put like a smiley face EQ and carve out the mids a little bit, get more lows and stuff and make it more aggressive. It's pretty cool. As far as trying to nail tones of different records, because with EQ, you can shape it's hard to identify what amp you're using anymore if you put some EQ post and really get into carving a little bit of, the tone up. Does that make sense? It's look up the Boss EQ 200 and you'll see what I mean. It's rather than having 10 amps and everything on a switcher or something. Sometimes the maybe the poor man's method of that, or a way to do it on a cover gig or something, would be an EQ pedal with one amp, and trying to get into the zone of a bunch of different tones, and then just boosting with an overdrive or something for even more distortion. Happy birthday, young feller. Thanks, Neil. I appreciate it, and I appreciate the super chat. Thanks, Ben. Thank you. Glenn says, working on my first demo video for a pedal. It's hard. You just got to find your flow, like with anything, like with recording songs or anything. You find your workflow and you make mistakes, and then you learn how to do it and how to streamline. Yeah. The Foos turned up at Glastonbury. I heard that they turned up and just kind of they gave them an hour and said, yeah, you can play. And they did a set. It's pretty cool. I also saw that Johnny Marr jammed with Chrissy Hine. That's like the two coolest people on earth. So I thought that was pretty cool. Oh man. Okay, what else we got here? Been having trouble understanding the differences between the EVH and regular SGE 3000. I can tell you exactly what those differences are. EVH presets, you get 8 of them in the EVH model. You also get the ability to do wet, dry, wet right out of the pedal, which is something that basically no pedal gives you, easily anyway. Not that I can think of. So they've made a simple way to do wet, dry, wet and do the kind of Van Halen style rig without doing it exactly the way that he did it, but very close, and basically gets you to the same place. And so that's different. So there's a dedicated dry out while having a left and right effect out, in other words. And then there's a loop that they built in that allows you, that kind of works with that allows you to integrate the preamp of your amp. And there's a gate feature. It's a noise suppressor, really, because it's more than a gate. The way that it works, is kind of sophisticated, and it's worked better than any gate I've ever tried. Actually, it's so clean with the way that it cuts noise and imperceptible to when you're. It's not like it chatters or any of that when you pick and it opens up, and then it just works amazingly well with the way they integrated it. So the noise suppression loop feature, which I was prepared to not be excited about, to be honest, because they came up with it and I tried it and I'm like, oh my God, it's amazing. I show it in the video, like in my demo video, where you can hear me take all the preamp gain. Like I'm not even talking about ground loop or single coil noise. I'm just talking about that comes when you're using a lot of gain, right? It takes that down to nothing. It's really cool. So it's that feature, it's the wet, dry, wet capability, and the EVH presets that are different from the standard version. Now, it's about $100 more, and I think it's well worth it for all that stuff. Some people, though, they're maybe not going to need that stuff, you know, unless you try it first, though. You might, you know, you should give it a try and see if you have an opportunity to try one in a store and somebody can actually walk you through it and they're knowledgeable about it, show you the stuff that I was just mentioning. You'll have a good idea of whether you can just watch my video. I mean, you know, I'm demonstrating it all in my video. Actually, I did almost everything in that video, I think, that I could think of. So, yeah, yep. Okay. Did anybody ever strip the tremolo hole in the Strat block? Had to order a new block. These days, you know, metal's not just it's not what it used to be, I think. And I've never done it, but it doesn't surprise me, you know, that that can happen. It's like different now, you know, tremolos, Floyds and stuff, you know. I mean, there's great ones out there still, but I don't feel like they're quite what they were in the 80s when it was, you know. Yeah. Devin with the super chat there, Striving Cloudburst or TC Hall of Fame 2, playing through a Roland JC40 with Sire 57. I'm not sure what that is. Maybe I mean sure. Well, they're different, man. I mean, the Hall of Fame, you can do more like, you can get some spring. I mean, it's a bit of a chameleon reverb, right? Whereas the Cloudburst is much more like that modern thing with cool shimmer and, you know, to be able to get almost keyboard-like textures and stuff like that. It's a much more sort of modern reverb. Not to say you can't do a traditional sort of something resembling a plate or a hall. You can, but that's not its... you can, but its intended thing is the Cloudburst thing, which is, you know, very sort of modern. If you want a spring boingy reverb, you know, you better go with the Hall of Fame 2. Hall of Fame 2 also had a great feature. I did a couple presets for it, and I did enjoy it. It's been a long time since I played through one, but the you know, the big button one, and you can hold it and it'll go to a different sound, and then when you take it's a momentary thing when you take your foot off. A lot of people might not know that about it. It's got this momentary feature, and you can have it morph to a different bunch of settings. And in my preset, I did one, for example, that was a real ambient reverb, nice, like a 6-second tail, really nice for, you know, pretty ambient stuff. But then when you hold down the switch, it goes out to 20 seconds. And so you can tail out a chord or you know, just forever. And I loved it, man. I made that preset at GitCon 5 years ago. You know, I remember with Thor when he was still at TC, and we did it together, and we made a video about it and stuff. I did 2 presets, I think, for them while I was there, and that was one of them. It was really a cool sound, like that tailed out. See if you can find it if you've got a Hall of Fame 2. It's probably on their website still, and you can download it. It was really neat. I thought that I could do that with it. I enjoyed it. Todd says he swapped out the pickups on one of his Sir Thornley monitors with Thornbucker Plus and Bridge and Thornbucker Neck. Love them. Great job. Thank you. Yeah, probably much different, right? I think Ian generally prefers hotter stuff. I think he's kind of a hot pickup guy. Maybe not in the Les Paul, but in his Sirs. I know he likes the hotter. I'm not sure what he's settled on, actually, but the Thornbuckers will definitely sound different. It's pretty night and day. I mean, I remember playing my signature guitar for a little bit out there, and then I picked up John's, which has the SSH Plus, I'm thinking, the bridge, which is like a 16 or 17K. And it was really fun. It's more of that, you know, it gives you more what a JB does or something, but maybe sounds better than JB. It's a great sounding pickup, the SSH Plus. But it was, you know, mids and just lots of fat and sustain and stuff. My pickup sounded weaker in comparison, but it's way more versatile to me because I can do the roll down and all that with the, you know, the PAF thing. So I always say if you want that sound, you can get it out of just add a Cocoa Boost in front and kick that on, and that's my SSH bus. But I would like to have one in one guitar. Actually, I've got a modern that I want to experiment with the pickups in a little bit, so maybe that'll be the guitar. How was Sweetwater? Did I jam with Gretchen? I didn't, but we had a couple meals together and stuff. She's awesome. We did a video together. Actually, I forgot. We did do a video together, and it was on the rigors of traveling. And it was a bit of a roundtable with, it ended up being really fun talking about like trying to get guitars on planes and what your angle is and stuff, you know, to that. And some people don't know about Gretchen, but she was a commercial airline pilot. She's like, she can fly jets. It's pretty rad. So, so she's got that angle too, coming at it as a gigging musician that actually knows how to fly a jet, and kind of knowing a little bit of the ins and outs of who's got power at the airline and the gate agents and stuff like that, and how to work with them. So she's offered up some great stuff. But we also talked about cases and gig bags and showed a few things. One in particular, like a new kind of travel case that comes from Gator that's really cool. I think it was Gator. And I was mentioning SKBI series and different cases that I love for, you know, so that was fun to do with Gretchen. It was cool. Yeah, she's rad. I've known her for a long time. Any tips for being on a tour bus, differences versus fly dates? Oh, bus tours are way better than fly dates because you get to relax, you know, you get to sleep and get way better rest. I sleep really great on a bus. Some people don't, but I do just fine on a tour bus, generally speaking. So, you know, it's so much more. I mean, I can't tell you how much more rest you get than when you're flying and doing one-offs and stuff. I mean, what I did, listen to me right now, I sound knackered, right? Because the hours of flying early and stuff. And when I played with Chris Cornell, he didn't like to travel on a bus, so he didn't travel with us. He flew commercial every day. I couldn't believe that. I was like, he just didn't like being on it wasn't a bus guy, so he was flying. You know, he'd probably fly first or business every day, but he flew every day, and I was like, how do you do that? Like when you play 4 or 5 gigs a week, you know, like just 4 or 5 flights a week that would kill me, you know. A couple is enough, you know, for me. But anyways, it was just like he used to do it, and he seemed to do fine with it. But I just much prefer the bus because you get to, you know, sometimes you can have a junk bunk and you can unpack a little bit. Even, you know, I've had tours where I've had like my clothes laid out on the bunk above mine, you know, t-shirts. And then when you go into shower in a venue or in a hotel, you can just take a backpack with a change of socks and underwear, a t-shirt or whatever. And it's just so much more, I don't know, proper sleep. And I like getting up in the morning, like an hour before the bus gets to wherever you're going. You're in your, you know, you get your jammy pants on, you go make coffee up front. Nobody's up yet. Sit there and drink your coffee in the back lounge and watch the world go by. It's nice, you know. It's cool. So I much prefer that. It's just more restful, and it becomes a bit of routine too. There's a bit of routine to it. That's nice, that I prefer. So yeah, I don't mind being on a bus. Let's can only power 1 amp at a time anyway. Oh, you guys are talking about not a silver hair in sight. No, they're coming in right there. I got silver hair. Yeah, it happens. I am surprised, to be honest. I mean, all the guys in my family, my granddads and my pop and stuff, they all lost their hair. I was getting ready for it to get up and go, like real early on. It was like, any day now, say goodbye. It didn't happen for whatever reason. And yeah, it stayed relatively dark, like without, I mean, they're in there, believe me, got the grays, but I'm lucky. I lucked out. What I don't have in the eyes department, I made up for in the hair department, I guess. I'm lucky. You can't have it all, right? From you, we will take the working right eye and we will give you proper hair. Yeah. Anyways, have you tried out the Origin Effects Cali 76 stacked? I think so. I might have done a video for that. If I didn't, yeah, I wonder how it compares to the slide rig. I think it's a little more versatile, like maybe with the adjustments of adjustable tack and release and stuff like that. There's a little bit more going on. So that's kind of neat. But you know, to be honest, I mean, I sort of liked each one of those pedals in the original format for each of the things they did. So the original big old Cali 76 is still one of my favorites. That's a great compressor for those that haven't tried one of those. It's, you know, based on the 1176. It's kind of one of the first pedals to do that. It's probably came out 10 years ago now, and I really loved it. The original, something about it. I don't know. I'm not saying that the new one doesn't, like the smaller version doesn't sound the same. Maybe you can get them sound exactly the same, but there was just something about that original one that I really liked. And then the original slide rig was basically two 1176s in series, but it was much simplified controls. You didn't have adjustable tack and release, I don't think, or maybe it was, I don't remember. I don't want to talk out of turn. Maybe it was one knob for attack and release. I can't remember, but it's basically the two feeding into one another in order to get the little feet kind of slide guitar sound that he was known for. And it definitely was great to play slide through. I liked the track actually that I did for the video for the original one, the big box version of the slide rig. Yeah, I didn't like those original pedals, even though they were really big. That was the only thing. They left me wanting nothing. Like I felt like they were really, I liked the controls and the layout and everything. Smaller ones, very cool too. But there's just something about the big ones that I love. I don't know. I like big, simple pedals that have like a big knob for this and that. You know, I'm so into simplicity these days, to be honest. So yeah. Yeah. So let's see what else we got here, guys. Just reading through the chat. There's lots of good questions this week, which I like a lot. I got to get to the super chats that I haven't hit yet down. So those are coming, I promise, guys. How should I go about bringing about clarity and dynamics from my super lead Marshall from 1974? I find it sounding really muddy and flubby. Oh, that's interesting. Maybe somebody took the bright cap off. The bright cap's a big one, so look for that on volume. If you pull the chassis, don't touch any of the scary looking stuff on the inside, but look on volume 1 and see if there's a cap, a capacitor between two of the lugs. If that's not there, that would explain a lot, because some people take them out, and I think it needs them. But if it's a super lead, there's no reason why it should be muddy and flubby, you know. Maybe it needs to be recapped, because after about 10 years, caps, you know, filter caps, you got to replace those. And probably something you should just send to somebody like Friedman, to be honest. And just, if you're like, look, just make it sound like a great one, stock. He can do that, and it won't be a lot of money, you know, unless there's a problem, like you need, you've got a bad transformer or something. It's probably not that, you know. So just to have like a clean bill of health, filter caps, talk about the tones that you like, and he can do a couple simple tweaks, you know, generally, like if there's no bright cap, that takes about 5 seconds to add, stuff like that. So yeah, those are some suggestions, but you know, there's only so much you can diagnose on your own. If, you know, you got to get somebody to look at it, I think. You guys are talking about IRs, and that's how I know how far back I am in this chat. So I'll move down. But some IRs seem to try and sound good out of the. I think you mean out of the box. But well, those needed to be mixed and EQ'd live. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'll generally do a roll off around 75 or 80 hertz, no matter what, just to kind of clean up the sub low end stuff that you don't need. And then occasionally they might need a carve here and there, you know, or a little bit more top end. Something like Celestion can benefit from, you know, sometimes some of their mic mixes, they can be a little dark compared to the real mics. So I'll add just a smidge of clarity, you know, that kind of thing. But generally I find the Celestions, your Music Life with Arthur here says he loves them. I do too. The all mic IRs have such a good sound. Yeah, I like them too. I like I prefer to the all mic ones. I actually prefer the 121 and 57 mix. It's just got a little less of that 421 thing that I'm not that crazy about. The 421 is great, but it's real mid-rangey. And so I feel like I get everything that I need out of the 57 and the 121 without adding in that. If I did blend in the 421, you know, in a real mic context, I would do it like they did it, but probably with it 3 or 4 dB below where it actually is in their mixes. That's just what I've found. I used to use their mixes, and then I found that I liked just the 2-mic mixes a little more. Does anybody know what we're talking about? I'm sorry if you don't. Celestion makes impulse responses. They do individual mics, right? A 57, a 421, and a 121, and then some room mics. But they also they give you in the packages that you buy generally mixes of those microphones that you can get a few mics blended into one IR together, and they're pre-mixed, and they're really quite nice. You can get all 3 mics, the 121, 57, and 421 all blended together, or you can just do the 421 and the ribbon. I think, do they make blends of the 421 and the 57? Not sure about that, but they definitely do the 421 and the ribbon and the 57 and the ribbon, in addition to all 3 and the ribbon. So kind of cool. And some with the rooms mixed in a little bit too. The IRs and the PT100 plugin are great too. Can you extract and use them in your live rig? You'd have to make an IR out of them. It's not that hard to do if you know how to do it, but with an IR maker, there's different, if you use like Mix IR 3 or I just got that Membrini IR box. You could use, could you do it with that? No, you have to load the IRs in to do that with it. There's ways to do it. There's ways to capture IRs. But anyway, long story short, I don't know if I would go to that length. To be honest, Celestion makes my cab in a standard Celestion package. You can get the Pete Thorn Sir 212 with the G12H 75s with 57, 121, 421. Those mics, just get their IRs, and they're ready to go. And you're going to be able to get a very similar thing. Just experiment a little bit with the mic positions and stuff. Yeah. Okay. Hot take. Does anyone really like the Marshall tone? It's my desert island sound, man. 68 plexi. Yeah. Okay. Jim says, happy birthday. Steven there, happy birthday. Thanks, man. Yeah. Got through another year. We did it. We did it. How do you use Luna to record your demos, or Logic, or do you? I use Logic mainly, although I have mixed in Luna, and I've done a few whole projects in Luna. It's great. I really like it for mixing. That's what I'll say. I find it was a little more difficult as far as MIDI and stuff like that goes, and doing some of the other things that I do. But the strong suit of Luna is the sound with the tape sim and the summing on all the channels and all that, and all the buses. Sounds brilliant. And so to mix in, it's really nice. I think maybe, doing another album, if I'm mixing, I might mix in Luna because it just sounds so good. So it's got this analog glue character to it that's really great. So my long story short, I like them both for different things kind of, and use both. Generally speaking, I'm working in Logic most of the time and finishing projects in Logic. But I would definitely consider for something that I want to take to another level in the mix, to doing the mix in Luna. It's easy to do. You just bounce the stuff out of Logic as waves, and pull those files into Luna and just work off the audio files that I recorded in Logic and go that way with it. Yeah. Entertainment Speculation says you'd need 2 SDE to do everything the pedal does. That's actually true. And to be honest, there's stuff you can do, at least in the EVH version. I don't know about the standard one because I haven't played with it in some of the routing, but there's things you can do easily within the pedal that you can't do even with 2 easily. For example, the routing. So series, 2 different parallel modes. You can switch between those per preset. It's like you've got a routing matrix to send. Series delay is beautiful for one thing. Parallel delays that are distinct in the left and right channels, beautiful for another thing. You can do that easily within the pedal, and you can't do that easily with 2 mono originals. So there's no downside with the pedal. Really, it's brilliant and gives you more options than the originals. Yeah. Music Life with Arthur says, I've never tried to do wet, dry, wet. In high school, I did come up with wet, dry, wet. Actually came up with a lot of things that the big boys were doing, but I had no idea. That's cool. That's cool. Well, there's always time. Still do it. Why not? Have you ever tried a Technique 2 delay pedal? No, for a minute I thought that's a Dio pedal. With a lasting line, which I liked. That was cool. Tech 21. I have a video coming up for a Tech 21 product very soon. Funny you should mention. What is my favorite song to perform? Oh my God, I don't know. That's a great question. I mean, I'd have to pick like different artists, and like with Cornell, Blow Up the Outside World. I loved playing Slaves and Bulldozers, cool Soundgarden songs. I loved playing Sun Shower. Some of the Audio Slave stuff was really fun to lay into, like Gasoline. And with Don Henley, I mean, Boys of Summer. Always fun was Life in the Fast Lane. Always fun. I got to go off and play a solo at the end. It was just cool. It's like, I'm playing this cool song, and that's the guy. You know? It was like always such a great riff and everything. And it would always be good, Hotel California, if we did a nice rendition of it. The solo was really tight and everything. That always felt like a job well done at the end. Like, you know, Melissa Etheridge. I mean, I loved playing on the outro. We would do this song called Like the Way I Do. That was always fun because it was a super long jam and really cool. Piece of My Heart was really fun to play with her, as well as all of her hits. It was, you know, she had I think probably Only One was my favorite of her hits to play because it just rocks. It's really fun. Yeah, those are just a few from over the years of touring. Any love for mini humbuckers? I haven't really played with them that much, to be honest. I had a Firebird once for a minute, and that was it. Do you have any experience with vintage squealing pickups that need to be waxed? I don't really think it's worth it, to be honest. I would leave them alone and just get something that does the sound that you want and keep them in case you ever want to sell the guitar. I don't think potting a pickup. You're going to change a vintage pickup. And some of them, like for instance, my 66 Telly, when I got it, it squealed. It wasn't from the coils. It was from the base plates on old Telly pickups will get warped. And then evidently that's what makes them feedback, squeal. So it can be another problem. So it might be something you want to consult a tech about. Sometimes it can be the cover, like the cover on a PAF. You could remove the cover and then it'll improve. You know, so it really got to diagnose the particular guitar and the pickup and the situation that you're running into. But I sort of am of the mind, like when I discovered there was problems with not one but two of the pickups in my old Telly, I decided let's just keep these. I can always get these, probably send them to Lindy Fralin or something and have these fixed and rewound. I still might do that actually at some point, but I thought let's just get some different pickups. And I went as far as getting a different wiring harness in the guitar too, because they had all the vintage stuff at the store in Tokyo. They had vintage tone cap and everything. And they made me, so I pulled all the electronics out of my old Telly, did a perfect new, plate with vintage electronics on it, and got some Ron Ellis pickups in there. And the guitar sounds brilliant, So if I want to sell it, I could investigate getting the pickups all fixed and, a rewind, whatever needs to be done to the base plate on the Telly pickup. I'm sure Lindy could probably fix it up. It'd be great. But, as it is, I'm happy. And there's enough great stuff out there these days that I don't think it'd be a bad thing to just use an aftermarket thing if you've got a squealy pickup. Yeah. Love your videos. What do you think about the DSM Humboldt silver lining? Did I do a video of that? I seem to remember doing a video for it, but it's a minute ago now and I'm spacing. So I'm sorry. I can't remember, to be honest. Just got the Boss EVH delay. It's awesome. Thanks for the deep dive. Thanks. Yeah. I'm glad you like it. It is super fun. It's going on my board very soon now. When I get back from tour, I'm going to make some changes to my main pedal board. Try the parallel thing finally. Okay. I've got super chat. There's a couple super chats. There's one that I know I haven't gotten to yet because it was a bigger one, and I feel bad because maybe it disappeared, but I think I'm going to find it. Here's one from Brett Laszlo. He says, "Long time no see. Can't stay because of work. I've got a Epi Koa Les Paul. Thinking your Thornbucker's gold or black. Much love." Well, gold. You mean gold covers or black uncovered? Is that what you mean? Depends on the rest of the finish of the guitar. I'm not a big gold guy. And just so you know, gold, and, being very upfront about this, for a long time, we didn't even offer it. It changes the tone a little bit. They're going to be a little darker than the open coil or the pure nickel covers. You can get chrome, you can get gold, you can get raw nickel. or you can get uncovered. Raw nickel and uncovered are very, very, very close in sound. Chrome is going to be slightly different, and gold is actually, there's a little bit of difference. So just know that going into it. Maybe you might like it though. You know, it just depends. Who makes Thornbuckers? They are made at Lake Elsinore, California, in the did I say that? Sure. Why did I say that? I think I'm just tired from travel. In the Sur factory. Oh, speaking of making pickups, while we're on the subject, yeah. I got to show you this. This was cool. This was a neat thing out at GearFest. Where is it? Where is it? It's a photo I'm looking for. There we go. That is MJ from Seymour Duncan. Look at her. 40 years at Seymour Duncan. She was sitting there with a pickup winding machine, winding 60s Strat style pickups at Sweetwater. So I spoke to her for a minute. She was really cool. Sitting there winding single coils. It was interesting. Yeah, she was very nice. And she got all dressed up for the occasion. It was cool. Any other photos I can show you from there? I didn't want to show you. Oh, the picture that's in the thumbnail. These photos, you see the picture that's in the thumbnail for this video. This month, if you're in the UK, we did a feature in Guitarist magazine. It's their 500th issue. And James and I talk about some of our favorite guitars. You can see, you know, some of the guitars there that James is playing, the 54 gold top style, and that's a real deal 59 Junior there as well. He's got some beautiful guitars. There's some of my guitars, the Sir Aura, as well as my signature Scala, EVH. Yeah, so it's like a full detailed article on our rigs and stuff. So it was really fun. Some nice photographs that came to the show and stuff like that. So it's cool. If you're in the UK, check out this month's Guitarist. It was an honor. It was a real honor. I talk about my love of volume and how I have to have volume on stage. Yeah. Modern Vintage says, in your and other touring rack rigs, does Friedman really make solder the power cords to be as short as possible? I mean, there's not a lot of extra stuff going on inside the rack. I don't know if it's not for any kind of tonal reason. It's just to keep it neat, you know, like inside a rack or something like that. He'll go with, everything's tight, and, you know, that's why, you know, to not have a lot of extra stuff going on back there with it gets in, because there's a lot of cables going on in a rig, and it gets really, messy real quick. You are young and childlike in a great way. I'm eternally 12, I think. Pardon me, anyway. Thank you. Appreciate that. Let's see. I notice, says Todd, that you don't have guitar gas or always feel the need for new and better. You seem to be happy with your rig, but is there any gear that you would love to have? Well, yeah. I mean, I get guitar gas sometimes, you know. I mean, the last time that I really got that real bad and I drove somewhere and bought a guitar and it was very exciting was my Destroyer, my Ibanez. And I met a guy in a parking lot. This was like during the pandemic, kind of, I think, early. And I found one and met this guy down in Huntington Beach. And it was a really fun, you know, to go and be excited about a guitar, because I love being excited about guitars and, you know, getting stoked on, you know, something new and opening the case and what's it going to be and that kind of thing. And this was one of those, because I thought he could show up and it's going to suck. It's going to be really beat up, or it's going to be really heavy, or it's just going to play terribly, or be all dirty, or something that's going to turn me off from, you know. And he showed up and opened the case, and I took a picture of it. I still have the picture. Right when he flipped the case open, it was in the sunlight. The thing just like, it was like, oh man, it's a good looking one. Like the grain is really cool. And I pulled it out, and the neck was like to die for. And I was like, oh, sold. Here, take my money, you know. And I was so excited about it. So I still get that way. But I have a great selection of guitars that I feel really good about. And I don't get as, you know, like guitars are, a lot of the ones that I would want, because I'm just sort of, I'm a little boring sometimes with the stuff. Like I love old Les Pauls and stuff, and that's like unattainable, you know? So it didn't used to be as unattainable when I first got a little bit of money and I could kind of buy, you know, I actually bought like a 54 Les Paul like in the 90s, and then I sold it a few years later, which I hate myself for, you know, but like I was there right on the tail end of when you could still get stuff that where it wasn't just ridiculous. Now that same guitar would be, even in the condition it you know, it had a headstock repair and a bit of refinishing and stuff going on, it would still probably be 30 these days. You know, I bought it for like a couple $1,000s. I bought my old 335 for a couple $1,000s. It's like, it was at a time where it's a player guitar, you know, it's had a chisel taken to the electronics cavity and all kinds of stuff. It looks amazing, but it's like, there's a few things about that guitar, headstock break and stuff. But, you know, a couple grand, you could get a nice player vintage guitar for. Now they're just like dumb for something with, even with those issues. So that's why I just kind of turned it off a little bit. So I was like, well, I've already got my, like, I feel like I don't play my 335 or my Strat or my Tele, you know, enough anyway. So it's like, I've got some nice stuff. And I just kind of, you know, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, but the Destroyer, I got super stoked about, got really excited about going to get. And I still like that sometimes with certain guitars, you know. You know, a big part of this was meeting Sir too, because it's like meeting Sir around 2006, 2007. You can get what you want, and you got one of the greatest builders, you know, because the Strat is always home for me. I mean, the Super Strat is home for me. That's what I grew up on in the 80s. And I can get them to make something amazing that's exactly like I want it, you know, just like you guys can. I mean, you can go to a store and order it, you know, you can go and get, so it kind of takes the, you know, finding something amazing. And it's still cool to find stuff in a store where you're like, ooh, I kind of want to take this home, you know, but anyway. Yeah. Okay. What else we got here? Happy birthday, young man. I have 2 preamps running into Fryette Power Station and Seymour Dumping Power Stage, sometimes one at a time, sometimes as wet dry. Advice to handle perceived volume increase when using both amps. Oh, well, nothing you do about that. When you use them both, I mean, you just got to back something down. So because you're just moving more air, aren't you? You know, you probably, you know, 2 different cabinets. You add another speaker, and that always just ups the volume. So I would just mark your settings on the power station on the power stage where, is it called power stage? Yeah, the Seymour Duncan. Just here's, you know, when I'm running both these at once, here's where I'm, you know, that's probably the best I can do there. But yeah, putting 2 amps together, you're always just going to get more, you move more air. So Dave Friedman told me Digitech Polaris with Lexicon is bulletproof. Okay, you guys are talking amongst yourselves. Got it. Here's a super chat from Doug. I play my amp slightly dirty and hit it with an overdrive pedal. I have a Fox tone fuzz after it in the chain, but volume drops when it's on. Yeah, that can be a thing. Yeah, you could use a boost after it. I mean, you could. Do you use a Fox tone? You probably don't use a loop switcher. You're probably like a true bypass guy. Just gonna say in the same loop, you could always put a clean boost after, so they both come on at the same time. That will solve that problem. Yeah, some of the older fuzzes, they don't have a hell of a lot of output. I mean, it's kind of like on a fuzz face, an old one. A lot of times you gotta just turn it on. You gotta crank the volume, right? Because they're not the juiciest in the output department. Yeah, there's not a lot you can do other than, you know, if you want somebody to modify the pedal. It'd be a great question for Josh from JHS or something, or, you know, if there was a way to modify it for a little more output. That's one thing you could look at. If you can talk to somebody about the circuit and stuff, but you might not want to modify a vintage pedal. I would say your hunch is right. I mean, just a clean booster afterwards and add a few dB to make up the gain that you're losing is probably a great idea if you don't mind doing that. You could probably get a little like TC Spark or something, like a single pedal, you know, and it'll be all right. Okay. Let's see. What else we got here? Is the new PT amp going to be 2-channel or 3? 3, and still simple and easy to use, but more versatile than ever before in some really cool ways. It's going to have some great, like really It's going to be markedly different in the tweakability department in order to get different tones of kind of different eras. Okay, let's see here. What else we got? What else? George says, happy birthday. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. There was somebody that said hi from Spain earlier. I'm sorry I missed that. I was going to say, hey, Spain, what's up? I've been in Spain for a long time. Yeah. Okay. Ferd had pulled pork tacos for lunch. I had breakfast tacos. Actually, I stopped on the way back from the airport and got some great Tex-Mex style breakfast tacos. I just came, for those that have joined. There's a lot of folks that weren't here at the beginning. I was at Sweetwater GearFest over the weekend. Then I was in Chicago to see a show last night for a minute. So I flew in this morning at the equivalent of 2:45 a.m. LA time. I got up, so I'm a little cooked. If I sound cooked, that's why. Yeah, I got that damn seat in front of the exit row too. I was like, great, 20C, awesome, looks good. I can, get an aisle and everything will be great. No, it was like the aisle in front of the exit row. So you know what happens then? They don't recline. And in an aisle that doesn't recline, you're kind of like sitting forward. And you're like falling asleep and doing this for the next 3 hours. That was me. Oh, it sucked. I know better, man. I got to look at the seats more carefully. Don't assume that you're not in the seat right in front of the exit row. That doesn't do. For those that don't know, those seats never recline, the ones in front of the exit row. And if you got 2 rows of exit rows, the first ones don't recline either, because you can never recline a seat back into the exit row, right? Because they're supposed to be an exit. So they always make them so they won't recline. So travel hack, never get that seat or you won't be reclining. I know better. I saw Don Henley a long time ago. I wonder if Pete was on that tour early to mid-90s. No, it would have been my friend Frank Symes, though, that I took over for. And who was the other guitar player? I'm totally spacing on his name now. But it was Frank on guitar, Jen Condos on bass. Different band. Different era. I joined in 2009 until about 2015. Saw Christopher Cross last evening. He is a great guitar player. Unique voice. Absolutely. Sailing takes me away to where I'm going. Octave up, though. I should do a Pete Thorn sings the hits of Christopher Cross, an octave down album. Maybe not. Yeah, he was his own tech, had a slew of Tom Anderson's at 3 divided by 13. Interesting. Yeah, he's always an underrated guitar player, right? He's a good guitar player. Yeah. What else we got here? Super chat from Modern Vintage. Since UA Apollos have their own color that change analog mic pre's, you find it worth buying mic pre's for Apollos? Well, that's a really good question. Modern Vintage. I'm going to take this opportunity to just bring the computer over here and make myself a coffee while I answer that, because I need more to keep up. So I think that the UAs are great. And I have some producer friends. Greg Wells is one of them, who posted a video, or maybe it was an Instagram post, but anyways, he put up a post a while ago where he'd been doing some experiments with the internal mic pre's on the UA, using then their plugin. So what you do is you add a plug-in mic pre to the kind of the internal flat sounding mic pre, and it's supposed to replicate the preamp characteristics and the impedance and whatnot of the real deal. And you can get API, Neve, Helios. It's a few different models. So Greg, long story short, said that he thinks that they're so good that he's done. He doesn't need the real stuff anymore. Now, I always think there's a honeymoon period with that. There's something about the ritual of a mic pre and hooking them up and you know, the gain on a big Neve style pre with that great big red pot, you know, where you're setting the. I mean, I don't know if I would want to not have that. Is there a sonic difference? I mean, UA for a long time, a lot of the people with the compressors and stuff too, a lot of people have, you know, the LA2As and stuff that you can do in the box. A lot of folks have said, these sound every bit as good as my hardware. Or I've got, like, I've seen a lot of pros say, oh, I've got 2 real LA2As. The plug-in sounds a little better than this one and not quite as good as my other one, but right there, like right in the, and that's like a pretty tall endorsement coming from, you know, pro engineers. So like I say, like Greg Wells, I mean, he did Adele, he's done all kinds of crazy stuff. He's brilliant, and he's like, yeah, I'm not missing anything with these. So that's your answer. I mean, I think if you're like on a budget and you're like, do I really need to spend this extra money on mic pre's, or do it? If you're on the fence, it's like you really don't. But if you have a little extra scratch and you like that stuff, it's kind of fun to have them. You know, that's my answer, I guess. When we did, we were working at Sweetwater the other day. We used Grace mic pre's, which are, sorry, I'm just making coffee for those that are wondering what I'm doing here. An espresso Verturo going. We used Grace mic pre's because we wanted to keep, when we did these, I did microphone shootout the other day at Sweetwater for guitar cabinet miking. And we used Grace because we just thought we don't want too much preamp coloration. If I'd had more time, I wanted to actually do some APIs and Neve style pre's and stuff and actually show that, but we ran out of time. The videos that I shot in the studio at Sweetwater took 5 hours total. So it was like, okay, I can't be in here anymore, taking up time from everyone else. So I would have shown that. But anyways, mic pre's is just another rabbit hole to go down, just like guitar amps and clean boosts and tube screamers and clones. And then when you get into recording guitar, it's like, oh, do I want API or Neve or are my internal preamps good enough, you know, on my whatever that you use, you know? So it's always it's just one more thing. Yeah. Okay. Oh man, floater's bad. When I'm tired or when I've been traveling and stuff, it's really hard to read these days with the floaters. It's like they get worse when I'm not rested. It's so strange. So it's stuff in your vision, you know, you get older and the vitreous and stuff hardens and you can't see through it. It's like literally floating around. I've got that pretty hardcore. And I'm actually going to an eye doctor later in the month. That's a top surgeon kind of dude. I'm going to talk to him about a bunch of stuff with vision. And pay a bunch of money for a big consultation and see what he says. Make some decisions. Let's see. Have you ever mixed different power tube type pairs in an amp? Well, I had a Mesa Simulclass 295 that had 6L6s and EL34s. That would be the only one that I can think of. I've had friends that have had those divided by 13 915s. Chris Cornell had one that he used. Rocco Rosa had one. That's a combination of two. I think it's 6V6s and EL84s in the same amp, but not a lot of amps out there that you can technically really do that with. Unless you're saying, have you taken like a Mullard and a Telefunken EL34 and put them in an amp? I haven't really done that. I guess not. I guess the answer is generally no, except for my Mesa Simulclass power amp, which was designed to kind of do that. Yeah. No more Zebra Thornbuckers? No, you can get Zebra, I think, as far as I know. Let me text the powers that be right now and just make sure that that's not a thing. And they haven't told me. I'm pretty sure you can do Zebra. But I will double check. Why not? We are still offering Zebra pickups, right? Okay. He says yes. See, that's how rumors get started. Speculation? You're speculating. I got an instant yes back from the boss. Yeah, no problem getting Zebra. Okay. Rick there with the super chat. He says, I'm a happy new owner of an SL68. Cool. Getting ready to send it in to get the 3 mods done. Can you talk a little bit about them? Sure. I had a few things done to mine that are just fun little things. That are a switch for the bright. So you can go from no bright to 100 picofarad to 4700, which is sort of like none or JTM 45 value, or, you know, late 60s, early 70s super lead value. Progressively more bright and aggressive. 25 to 50K mid changes the mid-range pot just a little, lifts the EQ out of the way a little bit. You might notice a little more gain. I mean, it's hard to, it's that's a subtle one, but it's cool. And then the fat cap is a cap on V2 that just changes, just makes the amp sound a little fuller, like, and that's subtle too. It's just like, oh yeah, thickens up a bit in the bass. And, you know, compared to the stock sort of setting, I mean, it's a lot of, they used a lot of stuff in those amps that, you know, there's variety going on depending on what was available that week in the Marshall factory in the 60s. So, but yeah, so those are the 3 mods. It's subtle. The biggest one is the bright. The bright's a pretty big deal. It'll really affect the sound of the amp. You know, if you run the volume on 4, 5, 6, 7, and you flip that bright, you're going to hear a big difference. It's going to be on the 4700 setting. It makes it kind of unusable on like 1, 2, 3. And then, we're starting to get a little fuller sound coming in, a little less aggressively bright, right? So if you want to run the amp really low, you can just switch it into 100 picofarad. That 100 picofarad is, which was on the JTM 45, is a great overall sort of roundabout sort of overall value. That's what I was trying to say. Like, you know, you can kind of put the pot anywhere and it sounds pretty good. And it has a nice sparkle. Just, it's almost like presence. It's almost like adding presence to your sound. What that does, you know, just a little sparkle on top, but it'll keep all the fullness. But it's not as aggressive as the 4700 picofarad when you're running the amp with 6, 7, or 8. You know, kind of right in there where it's really filling in, but you've also got the cut of the big bright cap sound. That's a very distinctly Marshall cool hard rock sound that you can only get with that cap, I think. So, yeah. How are you finding your new signature HSS guitar now it's been out for a while? Still, I love it. I mean, I use it as my main guitar. So anything that surprised you that you weren't expecting? Probably the mount that I'm using, the parallel setting. At least, you know, with the band Fight for Fighting, I use it quite a bit in the set, the parallel bridge pickup setting. It's a great sound. Just does a great thing. Sometimes I'll switch to it and I'll think like, oh, it's going to be kind of thin maybe, but no, let's just do it for this part. And then I'll play and I'll go, no, actually it sounds great. Like, you know, it's just, it's a unique sound, but kind of like a single coil. But I find it's so warmer and a little fuller than a single coil, but it has all the stuff about a single coil you want, the clarity and all that. So it's cool. It's a different sound, but it's not worlds apart, I guess. Yeah. There's no magic in vintage guitars. Certain PRS new guitars are so much better. I mostly agree with that statement. But even Sir will tell you, somebody with a backup beeping on out there. Shut up. Get off my lawn. Yeah, some vintage guitars just do a thing. I mean, my old Strat, I'm just gonna close the window. Sorry. Oh, of course, it's the guy from Spectrum TV. We love them. Company drives me insane. Sending them so much money every month. All right, God, I'm getting old. Sound old. So vintage guitars, like my old Strat, there is just something that it does, you know, that's like really special. I don't know. There's a certain oldness to it that it just has that my other guitars, I can come close, you know, and it sounds great. And it can be even better probably for some things, but there's a certain sound with that guitar that just, my 335, that guitar's got its own fan base. I mean, I'll play it in videos and people are like, yes, the 335. It's got a certain sound that, that is just cool. It's there's an air around the note and there's a sass to like a a certain sauce to the sounds that I don't get out of modern variants of those guitars. I don't know what it is, like, but you guys, many people have mentioned the sound of that guitar in videos, even in a YouTube video. I find that fascinating that it comes across, it's got a unique kind of honk to it and a very distinct tone. And so I think that there's still a thing with vintage, old guitars or things that have been around for a really long time that have been played in for years. And I don't know if it's what it is, and not all of them. I'm not saying everyone, no way, but when you find a special one, there is a certain something that's just really cool. So, yeah. Yeah. Okay, what else we got here? Let's see. I got an 82 X Series Destroyer in the early 90s. I give my left leg to have it. Those are the ones that had the kind of, I know it was probably red, right? And they had the slightly augmented Explorer body shape with the lower horn having the little point on it. And I like those too. And it became kind of the Phil Collins signature model. And yeah, they were cool. They changed them enough to get out of lawsuit territory. And by then, the headstock had changed and stuff. But I got great memories of all those guitars and even the Roadstars. And remember the Steve Lukather signature Ibanez? I always thought that was really cool. The Blue Burst one. I have great memories of those guitars just because they were in catalogs and stuff when I was growing up and in magazines, and you see them in the stores and stuff. And it's just like, I don't know, it's just where it all came from for me. So I like those too. I never had one of those sort of second edition of their Destroyer models, but they are cool. Really cool. Oh, here's another fellow. Oh no, it's you. Just another post about $250 in the early 90s. I know. Yeah, it's hard when you get one that you dig and then you sell it, a few years later. It's like, that's like my Les Paul, I had a 54 gold top that I sold like that. And it's always such a bummer because I'd love to have that now. Been a Vox Fender guy, but interested in Marshall circuit amp, curious about the PRS HRX 20. Interestingly, Dave Friedman did just kind of plexified it a little bit, like, because they're a little bit kind of got a mid 60s like sort of JTM 45 thing going on with the values, which might be great, might be exactly what you want. But if you want a little bit more of a super lead kind of circuit, he did one like that and did his kind of like, make it a bit more like a late 60s. And I'll be damned if that amp didn't sound great, and we were both sitting there listening to it going, yeah, man, that's all there. He was just working on the shop when I was in there one day, and I was like, sounds great. And he's like, yeah, it does. It really came out good. So if you get it, and then if there's anything you want to tweak about it, send it to him and have him do it. He did it. Sounds really good. Well, it's not complex stuff either, it's just the simple things that you do to make it a little less JTM and a little more, super lead. Did quite like it. Will the new amp have presets? No presets on my new amp, but it will have a variety of tones, and you can kind of tune it, into what you want. And did you get my super duper chat? I don't know if I did or not. I hope I did earlier, because I've missed. There was a big one. Somebody sent me a $20 super chat. I feel like I haven't gotten to it yet. I'm gonna go to the bottom, see if I find it here, because I feel like I missed it, and that sucks. I'm gonna miss. Maybe one of you guys can help me, because I feel really bad when I miss these. And how did that happen? I saw it up there. Just taking a look through the chat for a second here, so bear with me. What's everybody doing today? It might have been this one, actually. It was you. Okay. Happy born on a day to you. Always sending good vibes. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. How did I miss that? How did I pass by your because I don't think I saw this one. Somehow I just scooted right past it. Sorry about that. And I appreciate it. Thank you, man. Thanks for the birthday wishes. Had a birthday for those just joining. Made it one more year around the sun. Oh, we're all getting older, aren't we? Ibanez has had some great neck profiles, late 70s, early 80s. Yeah, I love the one on my Destroyer, which is 76, but the Roadstar and the kind of, what do they call those? Hmm, the kind of Stratty ones that had the round pick guard at the top. You see Paul Gilbert using one sometimes these days. I think it's red. They had really nice necks. And the Lukather model as well. They were little, they hadn't yet gotten into the wizard necks and the really thin stuff. The early 80s were a good period for I agree, like they were really quite nice playing guitars. They had that wacky tremolo on them, a lot of them, but yeah. This just in, Bob Deal, aka Mick Morris, formerly of Motley Crue, sold his publishing rights. Probably a good move. Like probably time, dude's not well and off the road and probably could use more money now than stretch it out over time later, that kind of thing, and just cash in, do okay for yourself. I heard this good article with him in Rolling Stone this month that people were talking about on the gear page. I might go read it, see what he's got to say. Karen says, building an SG from a body and neck, going for Angus tone, what pickups would you recommend? And also, where can I get a good quality pre-wired pots and hardware? Don't Bare Knuckles have a set that's kind of Angusy, I think? I would probably look at, they make really nice pickups. I would probably look at something from them. What you really want is in my mind, is kind of a T-top kind of thing, which aren't real hot. Kind of like the pickups in my 335. Although the Angus pickups, I think, when he's had signature ones, people tend to wind them up a little hotter, but they generally use A5 magnets. So they're going to be a little more trebly and barky and a little less compressed sounding compared to an A2. And yeah, just look for a nice T-top style. And if you say to any custom builder, you go to Bare Knuckle or you go to, and you said like a T-top, to what's your Angusy T-top SG? Oh, there's what you want, They've got one. Seymour Duncan might even make a set. Who makes the Angus? I think I can look real quick. Stop being lazy, Pete. Take a look. This is an easy Google search, right? Angus Young signature Duncan, I think. Yeah. Signature custom. Let's take a look here. Oh, they're a little bit on the hotter side. They've got 12K. Kind of a 12K. I'm reading through one of Solo Dallas's articles now. I don't want to get too into that. Late 60s, he says, Solo Dallas is a real expert on Angus tone. He says, late 60s T-top use Alnico 5 and a sort of shorter magnet. Correct. That's like the pickups in my 335. They're around 8K ohm on the bridge. Yeah, mine are even lower. They're like 7 point something. They're really low, but they've got a bark to them. They're real clear and kind of cool. So it says, oh, I see. There's a signature Angus Young pickup. This could from Gibson. This could be an old article. I'm not sure, but the Gibson one says should measure something between 9K and 10K. Oh, here's the Gibson Custom Shop, using the Custom Shop Gibson Angus Young signature. Well, these are not normally for sale. The Duncan Custom Shop seems to be able to sell them supposedly 8.5K ohm or more. Okay, so Riff Raff Humbucker, is that the bare knuckle? I think 8.5K. Yeah, you want a PIF with Alnico 5 basically. So hit up all the different. Look for the Seymour Duncan Custom Shop ones, like the bare knuckles. I think between those two, you'll probably have it covered. Why am I not recommending a Thornbucker? Because I feel like you want the T-top short magnet A5 thing. It's different, It's a little more. There's a little more barky and a little less warm on the top end and stuff like that. So, I think John Sir is here. There he is. What's up, man? How are you? I've still got a Christmas birthday. God, I'm out of it. A birthday gift to open from you, so I'll do that right after I get off of our chat here. I just got home from my trip this morning. Sealed custom-made nobles we've been working on for a year. You're talking about pots, John? Yeah, whatever pot we've been using in my guitar is amazeballs. Love it. Seymour did not make an Angus pickup for retail last time I checked, but they're custom shop. Yeah, custom shop special order. That's what I was just seeing in that Solo Dallas article, that you could custom shop special order a set of the it'd be kind of PAFE but short magnet A5 situation. Yep. Oh, let's see. I heard Queen sold their publishing rights for $34 billion. I don't think that can be an accurate figure. I love the Jose Mod video with the McMars amp. That thing was the sound of rock. That amp had a very, very distinct sound. It was a 73 super lead that Richard Fortis had bought sometime in the early 2000s and then was selling, and that's when I got to play it, when he was selling it. And I did the live stream at his Sunday Live with him where we talk about it, and there's something about that amp that sounds a little, it had this mid-range thing, upper mid thing around 2K where it was just vicious. And it wasn't Eddie Van Halen sounding really. It was Mick, and you can hear it in that video. It just, I don't know. And it was a little, elusive, actually, to be honest. Like Wyatt, it just had a thing that was really cool. It also sold for over $40,000, so you would expect that it would have a thing, but beyond just the history and provenance and all that. But anyways, Dripping Glass got banned from the gear page. What did you do? Oh wait, don't tell us here. Ben, get ready to moderate. My knees hurt, says John. Sir, I make the dough sauce and have a wood-burning oven. Oh, maybe I was at John's a week ago. I think it was John's birthday, and he made me a pizza. It was delicious. John does everything to high standards, and his pizza is no exception. That is for sure. So, John, somebody was asking earlier if we still do Zebra pickups because they said they couldn't find one, or maybe somebody told them that we're not doing that or whatever. But I was like, I think so. Not that I know of. And that's what I was asking you about. Is your tour coming to the Southwest? Maybe New Mexico? No. So we start mid next week in Alabama. And then I go to Atlanta, and then from there, it might be North Carolina or something. Just kind of head up the East Coast. We're in New York, and Philly, and Boston, and a little bit in the Midwest, kind of, I think. But it's really kind of largely East Coast. We end up back down in Florida, another date in Georgia. So we're out that way. We are out that way, most of it. I would love to do more. Man, I haven't played in New Mexico in a long time. I mean a long time. Albuquerque maybe like not super duper long ago, but I loved Santa Fe, and I haven't been there since probably 2000, maybe 99. It's crazy. I'd love to play that town again. It was great. Ryan says, Alabama, where? That's a good question. But if you go to the Bare Naked Ladies website, all the tour dates, it's called the Last Summer on Earth Tour. BareNakedLadies.com, I think. Go to their tour page and you'll find all the dates. And we start in Alabama. All the dates before that, there's dates in California and Texas stuff. That's not us. That's Semisonic is doing those as direct support. We're starting in Alabama, and we become direct support. Come to upstate New York. We might have an upstate New York gig. There's 2 New York gigs. One of them is at Pier 17 in New York City, which looks like a really cool venue. And the other one is somewhere else, and I don't know where. But once again, BareNakedLadies.com, Last Summer on Earth Tour. Check the dates. Come see us if we're near you. We will have some fun. All right. Pete rattles off the colors, all the colors. Oh, I see. Left Zebra out, overreacted. No, I wasn't trying to say all the colors. I was saying that you can get them in the covers, really, and then open coil. But I guess I might have said black. Yeah, you can get them in chrome, gold, pure nickel, and then black or zebra. Yeah, I should have said zebra. You're right. It sort of sounded like I was more saying, you can, because somebody was asking whether should I get them in gold or get them in, black, and I said, well, there's chrome too, and there's nickel. Yeah, you're right. I should have said that. I see what you're saying. Gotcha. It's live. You know what happens when it's live. All right. Well, what time is it? 1:22. I'm going to keep going for another 15 minutes or so. And let's ask this question for John. Surfby says, any opinions on Zercoat? Is that how you say that? Or am I saying it wrong? Fretboards. That's some sort of composite, right? Maybe John will give us an opinion. And we can figure it out from him. I'm generally speaking, I'm a traditionalist and I prefer the wood. But it's getting scarce, I suppose, here and there, different things. You know, it is what it is. Thank you very much for taking your time and doing this. It shows you care about your followers. Thanks, Angelo. I'm slightly selfish too, because I mean, I do enjoy doing this. So, but I look forward to it every week, and I always enjoy it. So, you guys are the best. You come here every week, ask great questions. Thank you for the super chats. I really appreciate the support for the channel and everything, and everybody being here. It's fantastic. So, Wrecking Crew says he dropped a set of Ron Ellis P90s in his Les Paul special double cut. It sounds amazing. Ron makes a great pickup. Yeah. Some say his pickups are hype. No, I know myself, they're excellent. Yeah, I've never heard anybody say they didn't like them. I'll say that. They're really good. He's a nice guy. He's a small operation, so there's a waiting list and all that. But he does a great thing. They're very 3D sounding in a cool way. So I've only tried his single coils. I've never actually played a humbucker or a P90 for that matter. I haven't played that particular single coil, but tried some Strat style, and he made me a nice set for my old Telly that I truly love. Neck pickups out of this world. All right. Let's see. What does everyone think of the new Miles Kennedy PRS SIG? Yeah, I didn't pick them up at the show or anything like that. It looked like a unique guitar in the way that their Mira was, and you know, the different instruments. I didn't really get I don't have an opinion because I didn't pick it up and play it or anything like that. But I liked Miles, and I wish them lots of success with it. And I hope they sell a gajillion of them. For Miles, he's a good cat. Yeah. What else we got here? Let's see. Happy birthday. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. Does Sir have any left-handed? Yeah, absolutely. You can order left-handed anything, I think, from Sir, pretty much. You can get my model, and I've actually seen lefty versions. It's generally got to be a special order, but there's some stores out there that kind of, specialize in. Anybody remember Southpaw guitars? That was a cool. I'm not saying they're a Sir dealer or that they're even still around, but I remember that store. They were all lefty. And they did a lot of mail order before mail order was a thing, because, of course, you get one store located somewhere in the U.S. I mean, they literally specialize in left-handed guitars, Southpaw guitars. It's cool. They might still be there. I don't know. But anyways, I digress. You can order Sir guitars in lefty, and they will totally make those for you. This Sunday stream is a real holdover from the pandemic, turned into something special. Who knew? Yeah, it's I love it, man. I mean, this is number 274. I think it's bonkers how many of these we've done. Yeah. Zercoat's almost hard rosewood ebony combined on the brighter side, but I like that. Oh, so you're saying, so John, it's a real wood, right? You've shown it to me before. I thought it sounds like such a composite, wood substitute, the name, but I guess it's not, maybe. And you like it. Maybe, what color is it? Is it quite dark, or is it got a lot of kind of stripe and stuff in it? I just wonder. So you like it. Well, that's cool. What kind of finish do you prefer on your necks? John knows that I like butcher block. Yeah, he does a finish called a butcher block. That's a protected and everything, and sealed, but it feels like raw, very raw, like just like a little bit of oil. I quite like that. So, but with that said, I'm fine on a set neck guitar having a painted neck, like a Les Paul or style guitar or something like that. So I can get used to different things. But on a hot roddy, stratty kind of guitar, I tend to like the raw. That's because that's what I grew up with, and it feels, raw wood feels good, I think. So, yeah, to me. thoughts on humbuckers with covers or without? So we talked a little bit about this earlier. John has some perspective on that, actually, but gold is the one that will really kind of be darker, I think. There's actually a tonal difference. The pure nickel, when we were making Thornbuckers, was the one that was closest to no cover at all. It was noticeably, I think, and John has a way of measuring this somehow, exactly what's going on with the different covers. But anyway, from uncovered to pure nickel, I think then you go chrome, and then you go gold as being, okay, this is definitely a little bit darker. Definitely changing the high end a little bit with gold. But some people like the look. Golden. They just like it. Yeah. What do you maintain the red neck on your PT Standard? I don't do anything in particular. I mean, it's got a light finish on it. It's just a butcher block finish. So there's nothing in particular you have to do unless they tend to get dirty or anything. Yeah. So there's nothing in particular that I do. I will use, I have some product that's, is it D'Addario? I've got some oil for rosewood boards. Occasionally I find on my rosewood board guitars, they're looking like when they start getting really light in color and they look really dry, I'll use some of that stuff occasionally, but this is rare. So, yeah. What's a butcher block neck? When you imagine like a like a cutting board or a butcher's cutting board, that kind of wood finish that's got it's got a coated, but very still, you can feel the wood and the grain and everything. That's the butcher block finish. You can order it on Surs. You can get a Sur with a satin finish or butcher block or different things. So that's John came up with it a while ago, and I really like it. It's got a nice kind of raw wood feel to it. I know John's not a fan of raw necks, like not finish. He likes to have some sort of finish on them for to seal and everything. But this one doesn't feel like feels like tung oil or something that I remember reminds me of the 80s. When we used to sand down necks and put tung oil on them. Yeah. Let's see. Peter John, what are your thoughts between V63 or Texas Specials? I've never directly compared those. Texas Specials always sounded good to me. They were just kind of saucy mid-range. John might say no, or he might be like me and be like, I don't really remember. But a Texas Special versus a V60 LP would probably be the more, maybe not. I don't know. I'd have to listen to them back to back and look at the specs. But the Texas Special was supposed to be their saucy mid-rangey kind of pickup, I think, when it came out, for the Stevie Ray Vaughan guitar and stuff. V60 LP with its lower peak down into the mids a bit more might be more. That's where I'm pulling that from, not just out of my butt. I did think it through a little bit. Peter, what's happening, man? How you doing? Check out Seat Guru before you fly for best. I know I used to use that. Now I got a little, dude, I'm losing my edge. Seatguru.com. It's a great one for planes. They've got all the, there's great tips that outside the realm of guitar, but for anybody traveling, they've got the seat maps for every airline. So if you're on a, United Airlines 757/whatever, you can look and you can see the seating configuration, and they'll tell you which seats suck. They'll be like, this one's got, row 31 has got a entertainment system box underneath it, so they don't have as much legroom, stuff like that. They literally dial it in like that. So seatguru.com is great resource. Or this one's by the galley or the kitchen or whatever, so you want that because you won't be able to sleep on a long haul flight or whatever. They'll give you all the info. Good stuff. Great suggestion, and you paid for it with a super chat. Thank you, Peter. You're always here and you're always kind, and I appreciate the super chat. Thank you very much. And that's great advice for all you travelers out there. Seatguru.com when you're trying to select a seat for your next flight. Why am I talking like this week? I think just because I'm crazy and tired. Maybe I'm not paying attention, but did you not said quad cortex the whole show? You're not paying attention. You didn't get here early enough, Chris. I talked about it in the beginning. Somebody said, do you ever play out live with modelers? I said, I'm going on tour this weekend using one, the quad cortex. Sorry. Sorry. Happy birthday, says Darren. Thanks for all the advice and knowledge. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Pete's been doing these way before the pandemic. That's, oh God, I keep burping. That's actually true. It's 5 years, so yeah, long time. Long time, but I still enjoy it. Lots and lots. Ferd, excuse me, says, thanks for the live stream and happy birthday again. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. Well, I think I'm going to split, guys. It's about, well, no, I haven't gone the full, God, I've only gone 145. I'm going to hang for another few minutes. I'm going to split in 10 or so, then I'll go. I'm beat, but I'm going to go do my laundry and stuff, take a little nap, and then get ready for some more stuff I got to do later today in a bit. But anybody else? I'm down at the bottom of the chat now, so if anybody wants to talk about anything in particular, let me know. Aquila says, happy birthday. And thanks for the Sunday chats. Raymond says, birthday best. Thanks for the Sunday chats. Appreciate that. Maybe I mixed up Aquila and getting tired. Watching since the old eruption tutorial video. That's 15 years ago. Amazing. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you. Love your video on the 3000. Thanks. Yeah, it was a labor of love, but I'm really happy with the way it turned out. It's a great sounding pedal that I'm going to use on my board. And it's totally looking forward to it. Getting it on there and running in parallel. I haven't run a true parallel rig, even with the PT100, it's got parallel loop. But I was always just like the problem, when you got an amp with a series or parallel effects loop, if you've got one processor, that's great because you can just run it in parallel, run the thing in kill dry, 100% wet. It's got a volume control. You just blend it in and there's your delay or your reverb or whatever, right? In parallel. Terrific. If you run 2 processors or 3 processors in your loop, now what do you do with parallel? Because the first pedal in your chain, you run it 100% wet. Well, now you're just feeding nothing but delay into reverb. And now there's only going to be reverb on the delay. So it's going to go duh with the reverb after the first delay repeat, right? Some of you out there have never thought of this, but it's true. If you do a parallel rig, it's kind of got to be with everything in parallel. So in other words, you kind of got to have a mixer. Like you can't have things feeding in series into one another or it doesn't work. So because of the way that you're eliminating all the dry signal from the signal. So anyways, I'm incorporating a mixer into my rig, a little parallelizer from Musicom Lab, and that way I'll be able to do a parallel rig, adding reverb, mod, delay, all that separately, independently, and have a nice mix. Now, John brought up the point a while ago. He goes, "What happens if you want reverb on your delay? Like if you want, like in other words, you want that to feed, and you can't." But John says, "Pete, actually, your new amp does have presets with the option switches. I guess sort of, but we're not doing." It's sort of a preset. I mean, it's not a MIDI thing. Like you're not going to get 99 presets or anything like that, but you do have the ability on the amp that we're working on. I never say too much, John, because I'm always worried you're going to be mad at me. But you say whatever you want because you're John Sir. You can say it in the chat. I think that the what we're doing is we're making it very versatile, so you can tune the circuit, especially on the drive side. There's 2 channels, and you'll be able to really dial it in for both, tightness, fatness, brightness, and aggressiveness, or more round, and also gain level with different, boost levels and stuff built in with what's going on with the tubes and stuff like that. So you'll be able to get a real versatile. And I think I've said it before, but like one of my main things is I would really love to be able to get it so that you can do like what the SL68 or 67 does. It might not be something that, because this is a more modern amp with masters and stuff. So it might be something where it's then becomes a little unruly to use with all 3 channels, because you're maybe diming a master on one of the channels and getting it to, but I want to be able to get the plexi, like for a studio guy or something that's like, I want to be able to get a true 68 kind of plexi sound out of this amp, for this one thing I'm doing or whatever. Well, I want that to be in there and have that option of being able to get that thing, because I love that sound. without. Yeah, so that's it. So that's one of the main things, and then I'll have all the other options too. So if that makes sense, yeah, it might, like I said, it might not be something that you can use with. You might have to dial it back a little bit in a channel switching context, just because when you got masters on all, the other channels and stuff, it's if you're cranking the master on channel 2, as you could imagine, well, that's going to be really loud compared to the other ones. But for somebody doing a session, they want it, or maybe they're just like, screw it, I'm going to use this one channel for my tone for this gig. I want it to be Angus, or I want it to be Eddie, or whatever. I want it to be able to get close to that thing. They're pretty cool. So, what are my thoughts on in-ear monitors? How many drivers do you think the minimum to get a good mix? Well, that's it. I started off talking a little bit about that. Somebody's asking if I still use the ASI in-ears, and I do. They're a 2-driver, which sound great to me. They're a very simple 2-driver in-ear, but they've got this ambient feature that lets you blend mics in on this, so you can get the sound of the stage. That's one way that I've gone for the last couple of years, and that's the main in-ear I've used live for a little while. But there's a new pair that I have that is a UE that they asked me to review. That is a 22 driver. So 2 or 22. It's very different. But the reality is that in the past, more drivers always meant more bass to me, and I never liked that. It was like I want less drivers then. I'm fine with 3 or 4 or 5 max. These new ones that have 22, I was like, that's going to be crazy. I'm not going to like that. And they were like, just listen to them. And I was like, okay. It's very different sounding what I'm used to. It's not at all just bass. It was super, super balanced from subs to all the way out to the top end. And when I compared them to their standard 3-driver UE7s, so I went right back and forth and listened, they were richer through the mid-range, less kind of, the UE7s sounded, I mean, they still sound good. I used those on tour with Chris Cornell. Those were my, UE7s have been out for years. And they sound great. Standard 3-driver. They were $600-700, $800, maybe something like that. These are way more expensive, but they do sound way richer all the way through the mid-range and super balanced. So that's what I noticed. So I don't know, man. That's if I didn't just confuse you, you wouldn't be human. I'm all over the map, but I'm going to do a little review of these, spend a little more time with them and stuff. They're a little more, they don't have any kind of ambient feature or anything like that. They're a little more for somebody that wants a real, like, mixing, or somebody that's really picky about, or a little more of an audiophile sort of experience, I think. But they're certainly not just all bass and super unbalanced. They sound really good. So, but do beware of, 12 drivers and 18 drivers. And so I haven't had the greatest experience across brands with that. There's been some I've tried where they just sound really bassy to me. Generally speaking, if I've got to recommend you need a set of in-ears, you don't want to spend an arm and a leg. Do you need 5 drivers, 10 drivers, 12? No, you don't. Get the 3-driver ones and just be done with it. As a matter of fact, you might be fine with generic Sures, that you can get for a couple $100 from Sweetwater. If you're not experienced with in-ears, start there maybe before you go further into it and see if you even like it. They're really quite good, the generic Sures. I hate to see people. I think there's a lot of hype with in-ears. Matter of fact, okay, there's a brand. I'm like all over the map here, but there's a brand you can find on Amazon that people rave about. They're $60 and they're made in China, and they're just like a generic, but they're a 3-driver or a 5-driver. You can get different ones just with the generic tips. I hear a lot of people are using those as a backup pair, and they're like, these actually sound really good. Like, so I think there's a lot of BS. And I was talking about this with a drummer friend of mine, Randy Cook, and he was saying, I think this is all snake oil, man. And I was like, I know, I think there is a lot of snake oil involved in it, and it's just kind of, you might not need to spend the big bucks on them to get what you need. So all that said, the ASIs that I've got completely different because they've got ambient feature built in the mics, and that is a whole nother dimension of, being able to hear the stage. Entertainment Speculation says it's not the number of drivers, it's how they're tuned. Yeah, but what I've found is that there's a lot of companies that are like, we added however many drivers and they don't tune them. Like they're literally like, I've tried $2,000 in-ears from companies that are well-known companies. And I've been like, these sound not good. Like I can't hear my guitar. I can't hear what's going on with the guitar. It sounds like all bass. They're like, oh yeah. Well, we make this other one for that, have more mid-range for like, it's almost like they added drivers in the low end or something just for, and I don't understand. That was my experience with it. It was like more drivers equals bad generally, above a certain point. That's probably just naive, but I think that there is some level of no UE. I guess not, because I tried the ones with 22, and so maybe they're UE 18s, which were their previous, I think, flagship. Maybe those are great too. I was always scared though because of my experience with more drivers equaling more low end, and they tend to get louder too, which makes sense. There's more speakers. They probably just get more efficient or something, but you got to watch your pack, when you get into some of these upper end in-ears from what, if you had a 2 driver or 3 driver, you run the pack on 5 and you plug these in, like my new ones, I got to turn it down to like, I got to turn it down 20% or I'm getting like blasted with volume, way more efficient. So there you go. Can anybody recommend a better neck shape and radius for smaller hands? I'll tell you what I would do. In a Sur, what I've noticed is that I really like, for that, I've got one guitar that's got their even C. No, sorry, it's the vintage standard or medium. Oh God, now I'm screwing this up. My blue Strat has, I think it's a vintage C standard. I'm 99% sure that's what it is. Vintage C standard. But what I did was, instead of getting the 10 to 14 radius, this might sound counterintuitive, but on that particular guitar, I got a 9 to 12. So you'll find some Fenders that have a 9-inch radius, or, like that Wildwood spec guitar, 9.5. They say they order them special. I kind of, for what you're talking about, like smaller hands and a little bit more roll, like that neck feels like that would work for you, to me. Like I just think like a not super wide, 1 5/8 width. And if you were going to order a Sur, I would recommend like the vintage C standard with the 9 to 12. And there's something about that for bending and stuff on my blue Sur Classic S. I think it's really great. And I could see that it would work well for like smaller hands. Just what I'm thinking. My guitar has a slightly wider neck on it. It's a 1 point. John, is it 1.685? Is that what it is? It's like a little wider than a 1 5/8. It's not as wide as 1 11/16, but going there. Your mileage may vary on, neck size and stuff like that. It's such a personal thing. It's hard to recommend. My knee shirt says wizard neck. I don't know about that. I don't know that the super small thing is right for small hands. I more think it's like the width and the radius, and then not too big as well. But like a round kind of neck feels, I don't know. I mean, maybe, once again, maybe the wizard neck, way too thin for me, but anyways, Whittly Houston, we have a problem. Happy birthday. Hey, thanks, John, appreciate it. Jackson dinky neck feels amazing. Jackson's were never quite as thin as the Axis neck. See, that's kind of what I'm talking about. The Axis neck is sort of like the neck I have on my Sur, is a little closer to, that's like the old Eddie Van Halen neck that they supposedly copied off his Kramer. That guy, man, he was all over the map with neck sizes. Axis and small frets and stuff, and then getting it like the later incarnations of VVH guitars all have a much wider neck than, say, my 2010 variant of that guitar. It's interesting. And the Axis neck really quite small. But so 1 11/16 is 1.6875. Okay, cool. That's my current signature model width, a little wider. Yeah, this Albert Lee, I've played that guitar. That's exactly what I'm talking about. It's like the sort of like a nice round C, but I really like the 9 to 12 radius for a little more vintage and bending, something about it. The flatter 10 to 14, which is on my signature guitar, also great, but it's got a slightly different thing for bends and stuff. You can get the action can be a little lower for, you know, fast shreddy stuff, but there's something about the 9 to 12 that I really love. I've only got it on one guitar, and I'm glad I did. Actually, I think it's on two. I've got two Classic S guitars with that radius. It's very nice. Looks like I sent 2 super chats as Karen because the first appeared to not go through. Oh, Karen, I'm sorry. I owe you a coffee or something. I appreciate that. You didn't have to do that. Thank you very much. Thank you. Steven's asked me. Yeah, I was asked to do this live stream with Dave Friedman tonight, and I think Mr. Fryatt as well. So I'm doing that this evening. Yeah, so another live stream event later on tonight. Well, I assume we'll talk guitar rigs and vintage amps and stuff. Let's see. Those 90s made in Japan strats were good for small hands. I had one of those for a little while. I made in Japan. It was my 93. I got this Sunburst kind of with a Floyd and a humbucker in the bridge and 2 singles, and I used that as my main gigging guitar for a while. It wasn't like vintage accurate or anything. It was made in Japan, and it had a basswood body, I remember, and kind of a 57 style Sunburst, but kind of like a super shred, you know, with like big frets and stuff. It looks kind of vintage and hot rod. It was a pretty good guitar, actually, as I remember. I don't remember what happened to it. Like no memory of where it went. Didn't Ed take Gibson jumbo frets and put them in a Fender? That's the way he described it. Yeah, Gibson jumbos as in a Fender. You know, who knows if they were actually like Gibson frets or if he just went, give me big frets, and they were like some other brand of fret. Yeah. How many Strat guitars do you have? I don't know. I don't want to say. John will get mad at me if he's still here. How many do I have, John? Can you look in the computer? No, I'm just kidding. I kid. My favorite neck is a 1990 US Strat. You know, funny thing is that could be the era. John, when were you at Fender? Because John told me that he designed a neck that became the Even C Slim that he designed for the kind of an American standard neck. And I don't know if that ever got implemented or not, but it does remind me, the Even C Slim kind of reminds me of that era neck, which is really nice. It's just a good playing kind of modern Strat neck without, you know, that would work across styles and for many different people. You know, I think that was probably the idea. Yeah. What else we got here? I guess I better go soon. But Paul Gilbert's fingers are longer than my legs. Yeah, that dude has hands made for playing guitar. I remember talking about that when I was at MI with Bruce Boulay one day, who was the other guitar player in Racer X, and he said, yeah, it's like the dude's hands were made for playing guitar. And he said when he plays unamplified, you can hear his fingers hit the neck, boom, 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 boom. Like he's just got strength in his left hand. That's kind of. And I remember Yogi as well. They used to call him Monkey Paws from Chris Cornell's band. He'd come and he'd put his arm around your neck, you know, and these long fingers would hang down and be like, "Oh, look, it's Monkey Paws." But you know, he had these hands that really, you know, just no problem with high action and stuff. He just had the you know, certain people have hands like that are made for playing crazy guitar, and yeah. Did you and Friedman ever complete your bar in the studio project? Dave, kind of in his shop, he actually made a more of a room where he does his tone talk stuff in his shop and stuff now. So that kind of went by the wayside, I think. But yeah, I heard Friedman mention that when he interviewed Tom Bukovac. That was a minute ago. That episode, that was a fun one. I actually chimed in on that one. It's my birthday too. I'm spending the day listening to you while I build my next parts caster. Oh, cool, man. Well, that's fun. I appreciate that. Hope maybe we gave you some ideas. Try the Noble's pot. Works really good. Yeah. You and Paul would be a great interview. I would love to do that at some point. He's a great guy, and a very interesting dude. And I love his love of cats as well as vintage Ibanez's. Another super chat there. Pete Thorn used on GC with Floyd Rose. Used on GC with Floyd Rose. Legit? What does that mean? Used on GC with Floyd Rose. Does anybody else? Sorry, I want to understand, but I just don't get it. Maybe you're making a joke. It's like you're just saying my old Strat at Guitar Center. Could be. That I was mentioning a few minutes ago. I have a 93 Strat Plus and it feels great. I had like an 88 or 89 that I scalloped and totally destroyed. That turned out to be a mess. No, it was still playable, but I just went really far with the scallops. If you ever scallop a neck, be careful. Go what you think would be conservative. Yeah. Yeah. This fella's got an Axis that his dog got into. That's interesting. Rob. All right, you guys. Well, I think I should split. Did they ever make a Floyd model on my guitars? No, not yet. Although I've thought about it, and we've talked about it at times, and I'm not actually at all opposed to it. It might be an option. I mean, how do you guys feel about that? Would it be cool to have, picture my guitar with a Floyd? Might be cool to make. I would have to do it not recessed because I'm not a fan of the, maybe a small recess just so the bridge sits into the body a little bit. So it's about the same height as the bridge we use now so that it feels consistent. But I'm not a fan of a back route, really. I like the way Eddie did it, either flush or actually just straightforward so you can pull up a little bit like a whole step, That's enough for me. So that would probably be my thing. But used custom Pete Thorn signature solid body electric guitar, Guitar Center. Is there one? Send us the link. Maybe I'll go buy it. Jeff says, yes, that would be perfect. Yeah, I would try it at some point. Maybe we should make a prototype or something and check it out. Would be cool, but unnecessary. Well, I kind of like Floyd's for some things, when you really got to stay in tune, there ain't nothing like it. It's a different thing, I don't know, there's something about the look that's kind of cool too, I know that's silly. That'd be a silly reason to do it if that was the only reason, but I wouldn't mind having maybe like a custom color, like a special run or something with a Floyd and a really neat like color that's really unique, and so that it's like a kind of like a one-off sort of thing, do it like shoreline gold with a black pick guard or something, and maybe black Floyd, like that'd look cool. That'd look real cool. If it was shoreline gold and all black hardware, it'd be neat. Black tuners and stuff. That'd be sharp with a black pick guard. Right? What would be wrong with that? No recess. Resonates way more. I love how Floyd feels. Yeah, once you get used to them, it's a thing. Yeah, do a Floyd guitar, put your version of Super Distortion in it. That'd be cool. A hot pickup. Okay, fellas, I'm going to go get on with it. I got to go and do some laundry and some housework and maybe start to pack a little bit. I got tour coming up. So, and then I got to go to work tomorrow, finish a video and stuff. And then I'm off to Alabama. So next week will be, should be same time, same place, unless I have, no, I'm not going to have a show. We'll be able to do it unless we're traveling or something, but it should be all good. I'm just going to look and see if I could see the tour dates really quick and hone in on. Thought I had them open here, but I don't. Well, I'll put up a post like I always do. If it ain't the same time, I'll let you know in advance. Yeah, I'm glad I was able to make it this week on time and stuff like that. It was a little bit crazy travel morning, but anyway, it worked out and we got it done. So great to see you all. Have a terrific rest of your day. Thanks for the happy birthday wishes. Thanks for your super chats. Thanks for always being wonderful. This week coming is a video for the Tech 21 PSA, the classic Tech 21 SansAmp thing, but it's the new version where they do it in a little foot pedal and stuff. And I did a track with it. It's fun. It's the original amp model or analog, but they They started the trend, I sort of think, you know, with the amp in a box in the 90s. Yeah, so we will see that this week, as well as I'm going to try and kick out some of these vids that I shot out at Sweetwater soon. The guitar cab one will probably come first. I think that'll be a real fun one to listen to. And yeah, so it's all about cabinet mic and using a bunch of different microphones and stuff. Just a fun watch and kind of educational at the same time, what we always try and do around here. Okay, everybody. Love you all. Take care. Have a great week. Rock on.